Hey, what's up, Drive to Dayton fans? It is myself, Kurt Stubbs, along with Mike Roth and TJ Petros will be joining us shortly. He's taking care of some business right now. Um, Roth, last week was officially our 20th episode on the Drive to Dayton. So this is episode number 21 in our short history. So, yeah, last week was a milestone 20 episodes of the Drive to Dayton. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting close to having played a full season. You got 22 games plus
Yep.
a little playoff run. So hopefully we'll get through that by the time the season's over. Got some highs and some lows.
Yeah, hopefully we're not a first round exit. Um, those teams that I used to say were gone by Valentine's Day. Kind of gotta we gotta rephrase that though, since the drawing is not until a week from this past Sunday. So February 10th, we will have a bracket. Girls bracket was they drew the bracket, or put the names on the brackets yesterday. They knew the seeds, but the names went on the bracket yesterday on the girls' side. So I guess that's a start that we're heading towards March with the boys coming up. Oh man, it's like a holiday next week, or well, a week, less than a week. So we will have names on the bracket.
Yeah, and since we're waiting on TJ to join, do we want to go through milestones and then
Yeah,
your last week's recap, and then we'll go into the intro question?
yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's take care of, as Ross said, let's look at some of the milestones from last week. We had a kind of a busy week as far as milestones go, and again, if I miss any of these, please get a hold of us. Let us know so we can get it out there. Whoop, there he is. Let's start on the coaching front here. T.K. Griffith. The coach of the reigning Division I state champ Akron Hoban Knights, got his 500th win this past week. That is pretty impressive. So congratulations to Coach Griffith over there with the Hoban Knights. Looking down through here, I want to make sure see anything else on the coaching front. On the player front. Alex Bobb became Marysville's all-time leading scorer, or not Marysville, Maysville, which is hard to believe because his buddy, that he played with the last few years, Hayden Jarrett, he scored a ton of points for Maysville as well. So they've had two.
He's the one who the record he broke.
Yeah,
So a kid who just graduated last year.
Two really good players in back-to-back classes for Maysville. Drew Bishko scored his 1,000th point for Triway. Nate Barhorst, what a night it was for the head coach of the Anna Rockets. He got his 200th win and did so knocking off a SCAL rival and previously undefeated Rushi. So he got his 200th win in his 12th season there with the Rockets. Braylon Nash, happy for this kid, got 1,000 with a 26-point performance. Interesting. Only the second player in New Albany history to reach the 1,000-point mark. And it hasn't been done in 40-plus years, according to their X account.
Wow.
Jacob Roth of Miami East became their all-time leading scorer, and they've had some great players at Miami East over the years. He had 31 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists in doing so. And this is kind of on the college front here. Nathan Bruns of Findlay, and Findlay's struggling a little bit this year. I think they're like 8-11 on the year, but Nathan Bruns has 1,700 points, 700 rebounds, only one of 3 active players to do that, which is really impressive for the Marion local Flyer. And then Eli Roberts of South Webster in a big win went over 1,000 points as well. So those are your milestones from this past week. Anything jump out to you at those numbers there, gentlemen? TJ, you looked a little surprised with that New Albany.
Yeah, that was interesting to me. As you were reading that, I was thinking that maybe it was a new school.
They were just small.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because they've been around for as long as I could remember. So, yeah, that's definitely one of the more interesting milestones we've had so far this year.
Yeah, New Albany, if you're just in your 20s or younger, you really only know New Albany of what it looks like now. I mean, it used to just be straight farmland. I think they were a Division 4 at one time. So obviously not that anymore. But yeah, congratulations to both players and coaches. And just happy to have TJ back with us. But before we jump in to the introductory questions, gentlemen, I need to cook for a second. Will you allow me to put my apron on for a second? Look at Roth. This has nothing to do with the purple, Roth. So.
Oh, wow.
Do you feel better now?
A lot better.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I would have bet $1,000 that it was going in the opposite direction.
No. I knew you both thought I was going that way. No, I'm not going that way. It was something else that was that I just need to put the chef's hat on for a second. So last Friday, I messaged you guys and I had sent out put a link to a document where I had listed the last 10 state champions in the 4 divisions. So you're looking at like 40 state champions. And basically the whole drive behind it was how many points per game did those teams allow throughout their entire season? And that was it. That was the whole point of the thing. And one, let me apologize to our guy, Tim Smith. First of all, we were going back and forth for a minute, and it didn't dawn on me until after I texted you guys that in my tweet I said something about wanting to win a state championship, you got to get it done on the defensive end. And I didn't even remember getting it done on the defensive end. And when he said pace of play, like I was like, oh, here we go, another analytics guy. But after I got off, I got what he was talking about, that just because a team is only giving up 55 points a game or whatever doesn't mean they're playing great defense, because he was talking about pace of play. Now, I don't know if Tim, I don't know if you have went through all 40 of those state championship teams and looked at their pace of play. I certainly have not done that. But apologies, Mr. Smith, for misunderstanding what you were saying. But my whole point is this. I don't care. Somebody mentioned Ignatius and overtime games and, stuff like that. I don't care. The bottom line is 38 out of 40 teams that have won state titles. That's 95% for those of you that aren't math majors. 95% fall in that range. So if you don't fall in that range, there's a really good chance you're not winning the state championship. I don't care about pace of play. That doesn't have anything to do with this. I see what he was talking about from the defensive standpoint, but if you do not fall in that category, 38 out of the 40 state champions did fall in that range of points per game allowed. I digress.
God bless Trotwood Madison and Menor, the only 2 state champions I'm recognizing from the past decade. They play real basketball, Stubbs.
Yeah, I mean,
they get up and down. They play the game the way it's meant to be played. They are the only true state champions. Biggie, I'll call Cam. I'll tell him to schedule a couple of softies next year that they can allow 25 points to inflate the stats. They can play Fairview.
But, both of those teams, as you mentioned, Roth, Menor in 13, and Trotwood in 19. Trotwood averaged 100.5 points per game. That is an outlier. And Menor, was 83, which is not crazy, but 100.5 is nutso in a 32-minute game. And I believe we had the running clock then. So that's just mind-boggling to me. But pace of play, I think that comes down to a lot of different things. I think the way they're allowing teams to be way more physical nowadays slows the game down, especially in the half court. It's harder to drive places and go places because the defense is allowed to dictate where you're going, with their body, with their arm, with their forearm, with their hand, which is completely different than it was 20, 30 years ago. But anyway, I digress. Apologies to you, Mr. Smith. I still love you. But hey, man, I don't know if your St. Edward Eagles are in that range right now. So I apologize. All right, gentlemen, let's jump into the question of the week to start the show. Would you rather have all 6 D1 Northeast Ohio District Championships at one site on one day, which I know this piqued TJ's curiosity, or would you rather have the ability to create the matchups for all 6 of the D1 Northeast Ohio District Finals once the semifinals have been completed?
I would say I would rather them all be at one site. And the reason why I say that, I believe Northeast Ohio in Division I is moving towards a super district this year, which means people are going to be able to choose which district they want to go in. Whereas in the years past, a lot of times you already knew what district you were going to be in. But really the only control you had was placing yourself on the line. So there were a lot of times where districts were stacked up where you'd have Eds, Ignatius, Brecksville, all in one district, and it was like that every year. So now that I think it's going to be a little more spread out, I don't think you're going to see as many districts that are just kind of loaded and filled with multiple teams that are capable of winning it. So because of that, I would much rather have all the games in one place, or at least do 3 and 3. If you want to do like the 4 Cleveland districts, do them at one spot, maybe do the other districts that are a little more south, do a doubleheader somewhere else. But the fact that we have all these districts and you can only see maybe 2 or 3 of these games at max, because the way that they're stacked throughout the day, you can only see one game at 11. Depending on how close you are, you can see another game at 2:30, and then maybe one at 5 or 6, and then that's it. Whereas if I go to Columbus, I'm seeing 4 high-level district final games, and I don't have to move. My butt stays in the seat. Or I can go to Cincinnati and go to Xavier University on a Sunday and watch all of their district finals in the same spot without moving my butt. In a time where we're really struggling to get turnout and get crowds and get fans, I know things change a little bit once we get into the tournament. Things start to pick up on that front, but still, I just think it would be such a great time, such a great environment, just to get everybody in one place at the same time. It's like we're pulling teeth here. So I'm not sure if or when it's going to happen. I know there were some talks about it, but unfortunately, it does not sound like it's going that way. So
I agree with TJ. I just think this is. I think if you wanted to do, like, I know in the past it was East and West have been separated for the voting periods. I'd be fine doing 3 at one site on the east side of Cleveland, or like in the Akron-Canton area, and 3 in like the west side as well, because like TJ mentioned, I think it would be easier to get more fans there, and more fans means more butts in the seat, easier for media personnel, and also more money for the OHSAA, because not only are you getting more fans at the gyms, but you're also only renting 2 gyms instead of 6 gyms, and you only need people to work at 2 locations instead of 6. You gotta hire 6 people to run the table, 6 people to run the scoreboards, 6 police officers, 6 people to work the concession stand. Instead, you'd be cutting that in 2. Obviously, they'd be working more hours, but I mean, from a cost perspective, this also seems to make sense, and for a fan perspective. So I hope we get it sooner rather than later, because I have never spent a district final Saturday in Northeast Ohio, and unless something changes, I probably never will.
And I know Northeast Ohio is the biggest region. You got to think we stretch as far as from Lorain to Ashtabula, down to Youngstown, even down to Dover, I believe, plays in the Northeast District.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand it's a pretty vast area that is being covered. So we have to deal with problems that Central Ohio or maybe Southwest Ohio doesn't have to. But anything is better than what we're doing now. I would even love just district semi-doubleheaders. The fact that we split those days up is insane. You know, maybe I'm asking for too much to get the districts in one place, but my God, can we just bring back district doubleheaders? Like, I remember in high school running over to the field house to catch those D3 and D4 doubleheaders, and it was a blast. You know, they would pack the gym, they'd clear it out, pack the gym again, or, you know, people could stay, whatever the case was. It's just like, what are we doing? It's almost like we're going out of our way to make this more difficult for people to see. And I'd love someone to bring me a logical explanation as to why we can't do some of these things. Every other area of the state does. It's just us.
Yeah, let's make sure that the Northeast District Board sees this particular segment of the show for real. All right, gentlemen, good stuff. I know that I knew that was on TJ's mind this week, which is why I wove it into the question. So,
it's like every time I know the brackets are getting ready to come out, I just get pissed off.
TJ just gets salty, man.
Yeah,
He's salty.
I swear, it becomes like a yearly tweet for me, and everyone says the same thing.
Yeah.
There's very few people in there in the replies and the quote tweets that are telling me I'm crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I agree with you guys. I agree with both of you guys. All right, let's take a look at last week's recap. Roth, I believe you had the pleasure of seeing a GCL South showdown with Mr. Corey Albertson, I believe.
Yeah, Stubbs, if you want to look at teams that give up less than 55 points per game, boy, I got 2 teams for you, Moeller and Elder. In 2 meetings with the Crusaders, Elder has been they were held to 28 points at home, and they were held to 34 points when they went to Moeller. So that is less than 1 point per minute for Elder, whose only 2 losses on the year are to Moeller this season. Simply not going to get it done. Cam Williams was sensational, made some timely shots, drove to the rim, made plays off the bounce, was finishing with both hands at the rim, but he scored 16 points and the rest of the team had 12, and that's just not good enough for a team that is sitting at 15-3. Their 2 losses in Ohio to Moeller, and then their 3rd loss to one of IMG's teams, not their top team. For the Moeller side, it was a balanced effort. You had Alex Kazanecki leading them with 13 points. Eric Mahaffey had 10 points, mostly in transition. Noah George hit a big 3-pointer in the first half, and he finished with 7 points. And then senior Kyle Havens was really impressive on both ends. He's a point guard who has been a leader for this team, a high IQ player, gets it done on both ends of the floor defensively, pressures ball handlers, is also smart about gambling as a help side defender, got a couple steals there, actually hit a three-pointer, which isn't something he usually does, but just makes really quick decisions when the ball is in his hands. So a guy who's never going to lead his team in scoring, but made a bunch of winning plays on Friday night. So shout out Kyle Havens, but just tough to watch a team with as good a record as Elder has, not even break 30 points in arguably their biggest game of the season.
Roth, what do you what do you see with Moeller as what makes them so good or so hard to score on the defensive end?
Well, they can play a variety of styles, which is rare. You can go big with Kingston Land at center. You have versatile wings like Eric Mahaffey, who's one of the most athletic seniors in the state. You have 2 point guards in Roman Mason and Kyle Havens, who are both physical, high IQ players. Alex Kazanecki, more of a shooter offensive player, but he also is a capable defender, has gotten quicker this season. And Moeller doesn't let you get out in transition. That's something that Elder didn't even try to run, which I probably would have maybe tried to run a little bit, but they simply didn't have the bodies to get out in transition. So even when Moeller turned the ball over, which wasn't very often, they still weren't able to get out in transition. Moeller had 12 turnovers, but I would imagine only 2 of them were translated into fast break buckets. So you look at a Moeller team, they also substitute more than almost any other team I watch. You go down their bench, they brought in Zach Green off the bench. They brought in Kingston Land off the bench. They brought in Roman Mason off the bench. They brought in Cooper McCutcheon off the bench. There's not many teams that can go 8, 9, 10 guys deep and still not see too much of a drop off in their quality of athlete. Or, I mean, there's obviously a difference between Moeller starters and Moeller bench, but the players that Moeller bring in off the bench are also very talented and giving them something on usually both ends of the court. So that's why Moeller looks like the best team in Cincinnati at the moment. And if I were picking today, I would expect them to make a trip to Dayton for the Final Four.
And I think it says a lot about a team that can win a 44-28 game and then turn around the next day and score 80 or 90 on you. Like Roth said, they have just so much versatility and length and athleticism. They got guys that can make shots. They have guys that, and most importantly, they know what they are. Very rarely do you see a kid on Moeller who's kind of, pushing the envelope or trying to do something that as an evaluator that he's probably not great at. So they're just so disciplined, skilled, athletic. This is a team, like we mentioned last week, who is kind of flying under the radar a little bit. As a program, we've been so accustomed to seeing them go to the Final Four on just a yearly basis. Whereas this time, I feel like no one's talking about them as much. We're getting a lot of Garfield Heights and St. Ignatius and, even some Centerville talk when they were playing really well. So I think if you're Carl Kramer and Moeller, I think this is probably exactly where you want to be. And I bet they're chomping at the bit to get a rematch with Centerville in the regional semis or regional final.
You know what it is? Those guys up in Northeast Ohio are just really loud. They just they make you recognize them. And I say that tongue in cheek, kind of, but I think there is some validity to it.
I think with since I've been around, I can say there's definitely been a major increase in the amount of media coverage. To me, it seems like it started back in 2018 when you had those Shaker Heights team with Christian Gass and Dale Bonner. Then you had the Garfield Heights team. You had Pete Nance. You had Dwayne Cohill. We had a lot of guys spread out. And it seems like since that year, that was probably one of the more exciting years that I've been a part of covering Northeast Ohio. But it seems like the amount of videographers, newspaper outlets, websites, photographers, whatever, you name it. It seems like just been a surplus of guys. And then we have a lot of personalities up here too, man. I think that's kind of what makes Northeast Ohio, and I think we're going to get a perfect example of that here in about 20, 25 minutes or so.
You left off a name on the most exciting players from the class of 2018 in Northeast Ohio.
Roth, I will leave this damn I will leave.
Oh man. TJ, give me your recap from this past week. What caught your eye this week?
Man, it seems like this past week there was just a lot of really close competitive games.
Yeah.
Friday was a loaded slate up here in Northeast Ohio, and I know there were some pretty big games down in Columbus as well. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of these quickly. Brecksville knocked off Akron-Buchtel 56-48. We talked about Brecksville's strength of schedule last week. It's probably not the greatest when you compare it to the other top 10 to 15 teams in Division I. But I think they picked up a pretty, a signature win over a tough defensive-minded Buchtel team. Garfield Heights played Warrensville. First time around, this game was really close. I think Garfield kind of squeezed out a 4-point win. This time around, though, Sonny kind of put it to his brother a little bit. The final was 74-45. Hilliard Bradley knocked off Olentangy Liberty on Friday and then turned around the very next day and beat Perrysburg 67-46. And don't look now, but Hilliard Bradley's won 6 in a row. Yeah. This is a team who was in contention for the preseason #1 in Central Ohio. Delaware Hayes and Reynoldsburg were in there as well. And due to injuries and a couple early losses in the year, Bradley kind of fell out of that conversation, but I think they're starting to remind people exactly how good they are. And I think they're a team that's very capable of winning the Central Ohio region. And they're just a tough out, just with their style of play and how disciplined they are. And they're always one of the most prepared teams and one of the most physical teams that I see every year. Lutheran West knocked off Lutheran East 47-42 at home. Two stats that jumped out to me from that game. Lutheran East only had 15 second-half points, and senior Jesse McCullough, who we've raved about almost on a weekly basis on the show, was held to just 9 points. So a Lutheran West team who is a lot of fun to watch offensively, a team that really moves the ball, has a lot of guys that can hurt you. They showed that they can buckle down on the defensive end. And shout out to junior Matt Meyer for, accepting the challenge of defending Jesse McCullough, and apparently he did a good job. Louisville beat McKinley at home 71-67. McKinley is a team who I believe is still sitting at the top of the Federal League. So that's another big win for them. Medina beat Menor 73-62. That was a game that kind of caught my eye. Shout out to Coach Hassinger, man. His teams are always fun. They play a really exciting brand of basketball. They shoot it, and it's just always a blast, man, watching him scream at those guys from the sideline.
You know what it was, though? Menor heard us last week talking about their 83 points per game given up, and they thought, guys, we didn't want you to score 62.
Right.
The opponent.
Speaking of Coach Hassinger, too, man, he owns a bakery, and I believe it's Wadsworth. So if you're ever in that area, man, go check it out. Support. Does a really nice job there. Pick North beat Grove City 51-48, which was from what I was able to see, was a real tough, gritty game. Junior Favor McFadden was big time. Kid who just plays with a ton of energy, especially on the defensive end. I'm a fan of guys who impact the game without scoring the ball.
Yeah.
And Favor McFadden to me is the epitome of that. A guy who's going to rebound, he's going to get 50-50s, he's going to block shots, he's going to run the floor in transition. He makes the game simple. And I think that's a bit of a lost art in today's game. St. Ignatius beat St. Ed 64-61. We talked last week about how that game was going to be much closer this time around than it was the first game. We were right. Speaking of games, the second time around, Delaware Hayes, after losing to Westerville South earlier in the year without Landon Vanderwalker, they turned around and beat Westerville South 73-55 at home. Akron St. V, this was a game that was intriguing to me. Akron St. V beat Westerville North 58-54. So for a St. V team that's sitting under 500 to knock off, without a doubt, one of Central Ohio's most talented teams, I think that says a lot just about how that team's not going to be a walk in the park. Mm-hmm. When we're looking at February and March, I don't care if they don't have that stud that we're accustomed to seeing, or they don't have those multiple scholarship guys like in years past. I do not want to play St. V. I don't know how many times I'm going to say this. I do not want to play St. V if I'm anybody in Northeast Ohio. Brunswick beat Canton McKinley at Canton McKinley 58-54. And then lastly, I'm surprised Stubbs didn't have this on his sheet, but shout out to Pick Central, went on the road to Olentangy Orange and knocked off the undefeated #1 team in Division I according to the Ohio AP poll, 59-56. Junior Amari Spiva had a big game. I believe he finished with 22 points. One of the better juniors in Central Ohio, and certainly a kid to keep an eye on as we move into the spring and the summer.
Yeah. One thing, a couple of things that stood out from what you said, TJ. I think right now you got 3 teams in Central Ohio that are peaking. Bradley, Reynoldsburg, and I even think that Delaware Hayes is peaking. I know that they've only lost 1 game all year, but I think they're playing their best basketball right now. So I think you got 3 legitimate teams playing at the highest level right now. And then, we talked about it yesterday in the group chat. There are so many teams in Central Ohio that are 4 through 12, 4 through 15. You mentioned, who's going to want to play Pick North? It's going to be, you said gritty, grime. Every game they play is like that. When you have a guy like Arness Lawson that can get 25, 30 any given night, they're going to be hard out. Listen, all by aside, who's going to want to play Pick Central? They're the 19th seed right now. They just knocked off the #1 team in the RPI and the AP poll. So I think the Central Ohio maybe doesn't have the elite like St. Ignatius, Garfield Heights, Moeller level team, but I think top to bottom, there's just so many good teams. It's going to make that district really fun. Really, really fun. All right, so I'll run through mine real quickly. Spencerville is a team that is starting to peak. They beat Bluffton in overtime, 76-74. Carter Sutoff had a putback to win that, and then Owen Sensabaugh had 24 points to lead Spencerville. Bluffton had a rough weekend, man. They were playing really well. Ended up, having to come back off that overtime game, and then got blown out by Pandora Gilboa the next night, 60-42. One of the hottest, if not the hottest teams in the state, Toledo Christian. 15 consecutive wins. They avenged their only loss of the season to Maumee Valley Country Day. Blow them out, 62-40. This is a team, I'll tell you what, not a lot of people are talking about them, but they just keep racking up wins, and they have a lot of pieces that contribute to their winning. So keep an eye on Toledo Christian.
Especially impressive that they lost the game at home and then went on the road and won by 20 points. They're a team that has as good a shot as anybody to make it out of that loaded D4 Northwest region.
Yeah, they've been good for a long, long time. Prior to the coach now, Dave McWinney did a great job there. Concluded his career when his son Cole graduated, went off to college. But just a really, really good program. I'd like to see them get over the hump this year and make that Final Four because they're a really good team. Martins Ferry picked up a big win over Harrison Central, 66-62 in overtime. That's the second straight win over Harrison Central for Martins Ferry. South Webster picked up a big win over Minford in overtime. Interesting about South Webster, they've avenged both of their losses, one to Wheelersburg, one to Memphis. Both wins have been in overtime. So, by the way, Stormin' Norman Person is still undefeated at South Webster. I don't believe he coached the 2 games that they lost. So he is undefeated at South Webster, from what I understand. And then how about the Highland Hawks? Take down the Lindsley Cadets 55-53 in overtime. This is a Lindsley team that just had beaten Kettering, Alter, the prior, Saturday, I think it was. But, you don't, going into the Hawks Nest up there at Highland is a tough place to go in there and get a win. Lindsley wasn't able to do it. First loss of the year for Lindsley. Highland is 13-4. They've won 5 out of their last 6 games, and they are currently 8-1 in league play, which is interesting, gentlemen, because they are 8-1 and they will play at Indian Valley on Friday night. Indian Valley's 7-2, Highland's 8-1 in the league. That IVC South with Highland, Garaway, Indian Valley, and Tusky Valley is really, really underrated. And then up in the north, it's like Malvern and then the also-rans. I know East Canton's got a pretty decent record, like 12-5 or something like that. But, I mean, Malvern has their way up there.
It's Malvern and East Canton, and then not much depth. But East Canton has a senior who is 6'10", Caleb Schilling, who's having a really impressive year, having a bunch of 20-point games this season. So I want to shout him out real quick while we were talking about East Canton.
I believe those 2 teams play each other coming up.
Yeah.
I want to say Malvern and East Canton will play. So
they do this week. They play this week.
I think they played
Tuesday.
I think Malvern won by 8 the first game too.
Yep. I think they play this Tuesday. And then the other game that definitely caught my Anna is now 12-7. They've won 6 straight. Could have very easily been my team of the week. If you look at what they did, they beat Russia on Friday night 52-48. Turn around the very next night and beat a pretty good Miami East team 54-42. Or I'm sorry, 54-52. This is a team that's 12-7, and they've lost 4 one-point games this year, Anna. So keep an eye on the Rockets in Division III come tournament time down in Southwest Ohio. They go down there in the Southwest District. So that is my recap for the week. Let's go ahead and let's see. What do we want to do next? Let's go with our players and teams of the week real quick. We'll speed it up a little bit here.
Yeah, I'll knock mine out quick. For my player of the week, I went with Caden Erford from Ottawa Glandorf. Knocked down a school record 10 threes in an 87-53 win over Salina. Finished the night with 36 points. Caden was a kid who played a role on last year's team, but was asked to really step in and be that second option this time around. And I thought he had some bright flashes and some really good showings this summer. I was fortunate enough to be able to watch OG at a few different camps. He was a kid who kind of caught my eye. I didn't realize exactly how good he was and how smart he was. Colin White, speaking of, had 31 and 12 of his own in the blowout win. And for my team of the week, man, I just talked about him a little bit ago, but I went with St. V. They went 2-0 in the week. They beat Stowe 59-58, and then they turned around and beat Westerville North 58-55. They have 2 games left, I believe, and they'll have a chance to finish the season 500 and head into the postseason with some momentum.
My player of the week is Babukar Njai. He had a buzzer beater 3-pointer to defeat Kettering Fairmont on the road. He has 3 20-point games this season, and 2 of them came last week. He's one of the top unsigned seniors in Ohio. Both of his older brothers are playing at the Division I level. And for my team of the week, I went with Lutheran West. They took down rival Lutheran East. TJ broke down that game a little bit earlier. And then they also doubled up their other rival, Fairview, this week. The Longhorns are the favorite in Division II right now.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff, TJ. Good stuff, Roth. My player of the week is Balin Blockberger. He scored a career-high 37 points for a red-hot Coldwater team. Coldwater is 13-3 on the year, 6-0 in the MAC. They're tied for first with Delphi St. John's in the MAC at 6-0. Balin is also the quarterback of Coldwater's ultra successful football team. And in my team of the week is the purple, baby.
Shocker.
They go in and prove that they are still a major player here in Central Ohio. They get the 59-56 win over Olentangy Orange. You mentioned it. Amari Spiva was big time in that game. 21 points, doing his thing on the defensive end as well. Pick Central's up to 19th in RPI now. I believe that Orange is still at number 1. So Central still got games with Pick North and Reynoldsburg coming up. So still some big games out there for the Tigers to continue to build upon this momentum. I could have very easily went with Highland. They beat Sandy Valley, Tusky Valley, and Lindsley this week. Or I mentioned Anna as well. So good stuff this week for players and teams of the week. Let's go right into what to watch. I had two pretty big time events this week. TJ, you wanna roll with the OG Winter Classic?
Yeah, so shout out to Coach McLaughlin over at OG. This event has quickly become a staple for me in the last 3 years. I don't believe I missed an event. And it's quick. I like events that aren't crazy long where you're seeing 6 or 7 games. It gives you 4 really good games, gets you in, gets you out. Always great hospitality. It's organized and well ran. This year's lineup is Delphi St. John against Dayton Dunbar. I'm excited to see sophomore Cam Elwer for the first time this year. Lima Senior against Lutheran West. 2 of the most talented teams in the state, in my opinion. And you followed up with 2 other teams that I haven't seen yet, with Shelby and Findlay. I'm really curious to see how Findlay looks. So Findlay obviously picked up a really big win over Toledo Whitmer earlier in the year. Has received a lot of praise, analytically in Martin RPI and the Max Preps RPI. So I'll be curious to see how they do against the Shelby team that has 2 studs with Alex Bruscotter and Casey Lance. And then lastly, you got Ottawa Glandorf against Troy Christian, a game that has Kurt Stubbs written all over it. If this was 10 years ago, he'd be front and center for that. I know it.
Yep.
So, 4 high-level games at OG. If you're not doing anything on Saturday, please come out and support. And one of my favorite things about this event, too, man, is that the OG fans come out. They do. And I've never been to a bad Ottawa Glandorf game, and I'm not sure I ever will, to be completely honest. So that's one of the major events going down this weekend.
Yeah, imagine the guys at OG doing something basketball related right. This is big,
right, shocker.
Big shocker. I also wanted to give a mention to a really nice event. This is such a cool concept, and I think we've kind of talked about this a little bit this year. The OVAC has their Final Four, so they build this into the schedule. So they'll play their semifinals on Tuesday night at the Higher Seas Gym, and then all 5 finals will be at Harrison Central, just like it was for the girls last week on Saturday. So I just mentioned the teams, the Ohio teams. This conference has got a combination of Ohio and West Virginia teams. So in Class 1A, their smallest, only one Ohio team, Wellsville, is in the semis. They're against Trinity Christian. 2A, River will take on undefeated Monroe Central. And in the other semi, Steubenville Central against Toronto. 3A, you got Buckeye Trail against Union Local. And then Wheeling Central against Martins Ferry, which the game took a little bit of hit. Sophomore standout Eli Sancombe, I don't believe, is going to play in this game. But still should be a really good game. Wheeling Central is really talented. 4A, you got Beaver Local against Harrison Central, and my St. Clairsville Red Devils against the East Liverpool Potters. And then in 5A, you got only one Ohio team, Steubenville, going up against a really good Morgantown team down at Morgantown. Interesting to note, though, Marietta, Dover, and Warren are also in 5A, but none of those teams were eligible. They didn't play enough teams against OVA or enough games against OVAC opponents. So those 3 teams who are really, really good are not eligible to play. And then also, I texted you guys this the other day. The Lindsley Cadets, who would be in 3A, I believe, yes, 3A, were ruled last week ineligible for the tournament because they played on a Sunday. Here's the kicker, ladies and gentlemen. They played on a Sunday last year and still played in the OVAC tournament.
What division would Lindsley be in if they were in Ohio? Does anyone know?
In basketball?
Yeah.
Maybe I'd assume 3.
Maybe a small 3 or a big 4.
They've got some pretty impressive wins there.
They've got some pretty impressive players. As I was telling you the other day, their head coach is a former Division I head coach. His brother, Doug Wojcik, is the assistant at Michigan State. So definitely has some ties to get guys in, but just thought that was interesting, man. They played on Sunday last year, were allowed to play in the tournament. This year, nope, not going to happen. So I don't know who made that decision, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But anyway, and if for no other reason, go check out Harrison Central's gymnasium. It's pretty sweet. So go support the OVAC. Go support the OG Winter Classic. Both really good events. All right, let's roll through these games of the week. Roth, give me your 3 games of the week, sir.
Yeah, my 3 games of the week. I went with 3 games all on Friday night. Got a pretty loaded Friday slate once again. Starting off, Cincinnati-Aiken at Cincinnati Western Hills. A solid battle in the CMAC right now. Aiken is in first place at 6-1 in the conference. Western Hills 4-4. Western Hills is 15-5 overall, tied for the most wins in the CMAC in total. Then a Federal League game that's going to help shape the conference title picture. Canton-McKinley at Uniontown Green. Seems like the Federal League, the conference championship is still up in the air with, I think, 3 or 4 teams at this point. So this game should probably determine who won't win it, the loser of this game, and the winner of this game will stay alive. And then another game with conference title implications. Whitmer gets their rematch at Findlay on Friday night. Findlay really took it to Whitmer in the first meeting. We'll see if Whitmer is able to get him on the road, similar to what Toledo Christian did against Maumee Valley Country Day, or will Findlay sweep the series? And I assume with a win, Findlay would take the number 1 seed in the Northwest District for Division 1. So 3 big games, all have conference title implications on the line.
TJ?
I'm just going to run through these quick because I'm excited to bring our guest on. So on Wednesday, 2 really good games, and I like that these are both played on a Wednesday. We have St. Ed's at Lutheran East, and then Garfield Heights at Lutheran West. And then Friday, we have Olentangy Orange against Bradley. Olentangy Orange, a team who obviously just lost their first game of the season against a Bradley team that's absolutely rolling right now. I believe Roth was at the first game when they matched up earlier in the season. Came down to the wire. I believe Devin Brown got fouled in the closing seconds of that game. So I'd expect another close, exciting finish in that one. And I'll be curious to see how Olentangy Orange responds after losing a tough game to Pick Central, a game that I'm sure that they absolutely did not want to lose, considering that they lost to them last year in the regional finals. So those are my 3 games to watch this week in Division I.
All right, real quickly, I mentioned this game earlier on Friday. Highland will be at Indian Valley, IVC South implications there. St. Henry at Delphi St. John's on Tuesday. Ottawa Glandorf and Lima Shawnee basically is for the WBL championship. That game is on Friday. Always a fun game. LCC at Convoy Crestview on Friday. Sneaky good game in the Youngstown area. Ursuline at Mooney in a rivalry game on Friday. Wheelersburg at Memphis on Friday, a big game in the Southeast Ohio. And then SCCAL, the Shelby County Athletic League title on the line. Botkins and Russia both with one loss in the league. That game will be at Russia on Friday. So those are my games of the week.
And we will be right back with our guest of the week.
Back, ladies and gentlemen, to the drive to Dayton. As you can see, we have the one and only William Sonny Johnson.
Yeah! It's about time y'all have me out here. Let's go.
I've been telling them for weeks. They just kept denying it. They're like, nah, he's not ready yet.
See that? See what I'm saying? Uh-oh.
Well,
Good.
Sonny, it's great to have you on, man. I've known you for quite a while and watched you evolve as a head coach, a dad. You've had a son graduate already. You have one now. So for those people that are, other parts of the state, why don't you give people a little bit of background to you prior to coaching at Garfield Heights?
Played ball at Ohio University. Ralph will like that. How you doing, Ralph? Alumni. So we got a connection right there.
Proud alumni. Go Bobcats, baby.
Go Bobcats. So we good there. Was also Mr. Basketball in '98. And I've been at Garfield now, I'll say this is my 19th year, if I'm not mistaken.
Doesn't it, man? It seems
19 years. That's crazy.
19 years. And listen, I can't even believe it. Can't even believe it.
Well, Sonny, man,
I'm an old vet now, TJ. I feel like it now.
Well, Sonny hadn't aged because when you coach all those talented guys, you don't age.
What's up? There go Petros, baby.
Hey, what's up, man? Good.
All right.
Oh man, like Sonny, ever since I've been around, I started coming on the scene in like 2014, 2015. Obviously, I've seen my fair share of Garfield Heights games, and over the years, it's kind of hard for me to imagine sometimes that there was a point when Garfield Heights wasn't a predominant basketball program. So just talk about how, like, where Garfield Heights was at when you came in, and just kind of how you've been able to, to turn it around.
I think when the year I took it over, I think we were, I think they had won one game, 1-21 or 1-20 or something like that. And then the year before that, I don't think they won a game. I think the last 3 or 4 years, and I was blessed to get, I think my first year we went I think 12-9. And after that, we don't win over 80% of our games here. So, 80% of our games, we done been to 3 Division I Final Fours since I've been here, numerous amounts of regionals and district championships. So, not regional, but district championships and, making it to multiple Sweet 16s and Elite 8. So, it's just been a blessing to more importantly, like just, have success in the program. More importantly than that, just being able to see kids change their lives, get an opportunity to play college basketball. And that's why, we win a lot of games, but we're known for, putting kids in college. I think that's more important.
Besides your brother, Michi, who was your favorite assistant that you had on your staff, and why was it Chaz Wolf?
Oh, Chaz watching?
Yeah.
Hey, Chaz, we was rolling. We was young. Me and Chaz was running around, we was both fresh young, and, I had put some crazy kids in the car with him. We took them to West Virginia, but Chaz was a good dude. Chaz know the game, man. I love Chaz. So Chaz was definitely a bulldog guy. He ventured off and started doing big things with the scouting.
That's awesome, man.
He was back in the Tay Jones era, right?
Oh, Tay Jones was driving him crazy too. Him and I think it was Mario Hines driving him crazy. Yeah, that's what Chaz was running around willing to do anything then. So he was taking them trips. He loved him some Bobby Huggins.
Well, Sonny, let's talk about this crew that you have this year. You've obviously had some really good teams, and they've all kind of been a little bit different. What do you like about this team this year that maybe is different than the teams with Willie and Frankie and those guys?
I think what's different is we pride ourselves on defense, which that's our staple in my program, and pride ourselves on toughness. So no matter what, we didn't have all the blue chip guys, star guys. We always was irrelevant. We always was, competing at a high level because we just played hard on the defense end floor. But now we got guys like last year. I think we had, Marcus and the key was just to try to take him out. We really couldn't really score that much. And this time, you've seen the development of DeAndre Jones has taken a big jump. CJ is an ultimate winner. And Carter Jackson is a guy that can score or make certain plays as a basketball player. When if Marcus, where he's been on, but if you need to, you got to have another guy that can put on DeAndre and Carter as those guys that can make plays because and then you have a guy like Corey Wilson who's a junkyard dog. Like the last couple games we've been able to take Corey Wilson, CJ off the point of guarding the ball and put Corey on the ball, which is crazy. I don't think anybody can really say they could take their ultimate ball off and put another guy that can guard the ball just like on there like that. And then you got Marcus. I'm gonna just say this. And I'm not saying this because my son. I don't even talk like this. I don't know how. He wouldn't be the favorite for like a Mr. You can't do. Honestly, you can't. Every game we went in, they go try to face guard. Every single game, and it frees up a lot of players. And he just still consistently doing what he do every single night. And he opens up for a lot of players. A lot of that's when you're elite when the focal point is on you, and then other guys can also be dominant like we have like DeAndre and Carter and those guys. So we got a guy that can take a lot of heat. We got DeAndre who's probably playing above. With no offense to Kent State, I love Kent State. No question. That's my guy center off. But DeAndre's playing like a high major player as well. We just got a good balance with all the guys just buying into their roles for real.
And Coach, I talked to a lot of other guys in the area.
And you guys played.
Don't fight over the conversation. I don't want to see y'all people over here right now.
Well, Rob doesn't pay his internet bill, so he was a little behind the curve.
Yeah. Okay.
Rob is working off a hotspot right now.
Not true.
But, Coach, I talked to a lot of guys across the state, whether it's Northeast Ohio, Columbus, Southwest Ohio. And I always like to ask this question to people, those who have been fortunate enough to coach their sons and just hear what that experience is like. And not only were you able to do that once with Sonny, but now you're able to go through this entire process again, but this time with Marcus. Just how has that been? Is it challenging? Is it rewarding?
Well, with Sonny, Sonny was a good player, you know what I'm saying? But he wasn't, offense like Marcus is Marcus probably more different than all of them because Marcus is going to give you 20 or 30 points or whatever he's going to give you, but he's still going to make all the right plays. If you watch him play, he's a type of star player that you just want to play with because he plays the right. If you open, he's going to give it to you. Sometimes I get mad if he don't take. I always say, hey, Marcus, star players going to take some tough shots sometimes. I try to get them to take a few tough ones here and there, but it's a pleasure to coach a kid like this because, like, right now, everybody's gone. He's in the gym. Whatever he's getting, honestly, he deserves because he works that hard for it. And it's really fun, not just to coach him as my son, but I think, like I just told my coach today, this is probably one of the toughest jobs I had. They're like, what? Are you crazy? Because you managing egos. You know what I'm saying? You're managing a lot of egos and people getting rewards here and there. And, I feel CJ should get a lot more awards because the ultimate winner. I feel Carter's, not getting the thing. I feel Dre's this. But then you got Marcus, but he fits in with all the guys. So as a father, it just makes it easier to coach him because your son is such an unselfish guy and he gets along with these guys really well.
Yeah, sticking with your team this year, I mean, you guys have played a couple of the top teams from Northeast Ohio, also a couple of prep programs like Western Reserve, went to Flying to the Hoop, played an out-of-state program like Faith Family. What have you learned about your team this season in those challenges like that, especially games with big crowds? I mean, you sold out the game against Richmond Heights. The game against Western Reserve was a pretty packed environment as well. Just what have you learned from your team in those big games so far this season?
Well, I just learned what we were trying to do is compete against anybody that had multiple bigs, because when we look at it too, you see the team up here that's pretty that's really good as well as Ignatius. I know they got a front line of 6'9", and I think 6'8", 6'9", something like that. I know they're huge. So we just tried to face as many guys as we could, like far as like Faith Family and Western Reserve and Huntington Prep and Reynoldsburg. We tried to face as many guys that had big bodies because we felt like, it's a long way. You don't know what can happen, but we feel like Ignatius is one of those top teams that we'll have to go through. So we want to, just be prepared and learn how to play small ball and match up right against bigger teams. So I really just learned that they're resilient. I learned that we can play against bigger teams. I learned that, who needs to guard. We learned that Carter Jackson can guard a 6'8", 6'9" guy. We learned that playing a bigger team, we learned that Corey can guard the ball, and we can put CJ on the other 6'9" or 6'8" guy. So this team, matchup-wise, we prepared to match up with anybody.
Sonny, you were down there, in 15, 16, 2015?
That's a long draw. There you go.
Yeah.
See, I see what you're trying to do. You're making me feel bad.
No.
Come on. I know.
You got to change to the Drought the Dayton podcast.
No.
Yeah, I know. Hey, I was one away yesterday. Last year, TJ got me going. I thought I was going down to T. I ain't gonna say what you sold me. Last year, T. We gonna keep that between us. But it's been a drought for a minute.
Yeah, but what if you get back there? What would you do different? Because it's not just the game when you make it to the Final Four. It's keeping your kids focused. There's a lot of other things that go into that week leading up to that Final Four, and you have that experience. What would you do differently this time around as you have matured and you've been in that water before?
Well, today, one thing we did, I told our guys, we run a lot of motion, so I let our guys open the floor, screen, a lot of ball screens and things like that. We worked on a lot of sets today, because at the end of the day, we went up against Toledo team last year. And I think they, at that time, they just executed like crazy. I don't know what this guy was doing. I thought we had him scouted. The dude was doing so much stuff on us. Shoot, I was trying to call as many timeouts as I could. Shoot. But I learned making the tournament run. You got to learn how to execute down there. And then at the end of the day, let's be real. When you get down there, it's luck to me. Like anything can happen. I don't care. That's when you get down. That's where it's such a big deal to get down there because now it's the best. You have all the best teams, and anybody can beat anybody when you get down to that Final Four. For the most part, I would say 90% of that is anybody can beat anybody, and it's not too much learning. It's just really just hoping that you turn out victorious because the competition is elite.
And Coach, one thing that you've told me numerous times this year is how high you are on this current freshman class.
Mm-hmm.
How important do you think it is to have a group of guys like that play behind all of these seniors, have an opportunity to not jump right into the fire, kind of ease their way into it, and then next year step into bigger roles as sophomores?
I think it's huge. That's why I have 5 freshmen practicing with me every day. Like I have 5. I have Tavion McClain, who y'all don't really know, that's 6'3" wing, who's really athletic, probably have the biggest upside of all other kids we have. Rashawn Myers is a ball hawk. Malik Terry is a freshman point guard that we just brought up last week. Rashawn Myers is going to be a stud. I think he's going to be. I'm talking about. He's going to be one of the most talented guards we had. He's an outstanding defender. He's got a little jump to his game. 33. He's a competitor. And then you got Jamar Keys, who at 6'7" can do a lot of things. Can step out, shoot it, and put it on the floor a little bit. Just very talented. Then we got Devontae Perkins, who's 6'6", who's DeAndre Jones' cousin. So our freshman class is loaded. I mean, you know, we got a shot to be pretty special with those guys. So I mean, you know, I'm just trying to get them as much experience as well. That's why you see sometimes we coaching. I just try to throw them in here and there. I don't care if it's 30 seconds to a minute. You know, I'm gonna be surprised. I'm just gonna throw them in if we get to a Final Four, or Elite Eight, just to get their feet wet, so they can have that experience to say they was there. And I think that goes a long way.
Well, Sonny, we definitely appreciate your time here, man. I know it's a busy time of the year. I'll get you out of here on this one. I've always marveled at how your teams play so daggone hard, and you obviously have intensity to you. But the crazy thing about you is how you can have so much fun as well. Like, I don't know how it's such a weird mesh, because like your teams play so daggone hard, but you love to have fun too.
Yeah, no question, because at the end of the day, you know, this about fun. And I do all my screaming and yelling in practice. I think that's what good coaches should do, to be honest with you. Most of my screaming and yelling and getting the best out of them comes in practice. And I think when you get to that game, as a coach, you should have them already prepared, you know. So, you know, they're going to make a few mistakes. They're going to do a few things that you don't like and hold them accountable for, but it's not as much as it should be if you do your job as a coach in practice. So, and then at the end of the day, it's basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to have fun. Well, I mean, you know, you got to have fun. You know, some coaches take it so serious. I put you like this. I've been here a long time. You know, I know guys they consider legendary coaches and good things like that. And when you're going, you're gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of these guys retire, you're gone. So why not enjoy it and have as much fun with it while you're here? You know, I always pray to God that, honestly, I just never wanted to be just a regular coach. I want to impact lives. I want to impact events. I want to be different. So, and I think I'm just honestly thank God that He made me different as far as how I coach the kids, how I'm having fun, how I'm just, you know, honestly just enjoying life, because it don't last long.
Yeah, man.
That's one thing. I love that you said that, because like when I travel across the state and I do a lot of like my recruiting seminars and I talk to parents and coaches and kids, the one thing I try to stress to them is like, this is supposed to be fun. Like we've made basketball such a business for kids, right? Where kids are worried about scoring points so they can get tweets, and then those tweets will maybe lead to offers or lead to them playing for the biggest and best AAU teams. I feel like these kids at 14, 15, 16 years old have so much pressure on their shoulders from the second they start high school basketball. How often are we just telling these kids, hey, go have fun?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, too. Like, I tell our kids, man, listen, it's about having fun, but be a competitor. Because my main thing is most of our kids are going to college. So I try to educate them a lot on how it's going to be in college, because I'm going to say this to them. I always say this, and I haven't had one kid come back to me I say this to all my kids. This is going to be the most fun you ever had in your life. And they look at me like, what? And they be going to college. They be going to, like, Kent State or what's they going to Fairmont and Canisius or the other kids that went to Indiana Tech. I say, this is going to be the most fun you ever had. I said it with Trey Lewis and all these guys. I had, I said, "Look, why is more of a business when you get to college?" I said, that college coach, he has 4 years to keep his job. Okay. If he does well, he's getting a raise. If he does well, he's getting another job. If he don't win in 4 years, he's getting fired. So he don't have time to play with you, and he not really mess with you like that if you can't help him. So this is the most fun you're gonna have ever in your life because it's so much of a business because he don't have time. That college coach don't have time. So at the end of the day, this is the most fun, hanging out with your guys. Like I try to take them to the movies. We try to go out to dinners, and we try to do like we're gonna do something this week. That's our main goal is to find stuff to do. I really like doing stuff with them during the tournament time because this is the best time that they're ever going to have because when they walk in, that coach is and they can't help that coach. And, it's problem. Like, I'm going to give a prime example. Like, I went to Carter Jackson yesterday. We're watching film. I said, Carter, no offense. I'm sorry to say this. I said, your coach probably in the hot seat. And I'm being honest. I said, at Canisius, his contract year is up. So, like, you understand, and if they give him another year, he don't have time to wait on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, he don't have time. Like, he's got to bring somebody in that can help him keep his job. So that becomes more of a business. And you got to understand that at that next level, it's all business. We do a business here, but it's more loving on you business. They do it where it's more business, but they going to love who's helping them. Love on who's helping them keep their job. And love them just a little bit more, So that's how that goes.
Oh man, Sonny, you're the best, man.
Come on, guy.
Never disappoints.
No, he always delivers. Yeah, man. The game in Ohio needs you, man. Don't ever change. And when you leave here, make sure you get one of them smoothies, man.
Oh, you better believe
get
that.
you a smoothie when you leave here, man. Hey, thanks for jumping on here, man.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I want to tell y'all, honestly, thank y'all. Y'all do an unbelievable job. I'm not just saying that. I know y'all personally, and TJ and Rap. Y'all just all outstanding on what y'all do. And honestly, you need me, I'm here. You know what I'm saying? We go get some chicken wings. I like to eat chicken wings. You know what I'm saying? We go get some chicken wings. Do we do, baby? It's on me. Chicken wings on me, baby.
Appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate y'all.
All right, man.
All right, okay.
Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Right, no problem.
Fine when he
I
said
think
that.
he said your name about 5 times, and not once did he say it right.
And he said it like 3 different ways.
Oh man, Ralph, Rand, Rome. Oh,
He
man.
never disappoints. He can,
Sonny.
he can beat just about anybody in the state, but he cannot leave a Zoom call. God, I love that guy. He's
man,
never change.
We kind of hop into these alumni spotlight, and then I know Stubbs, you got to get rolling soon.
Yeah,
or did you guys hop into yourself quick or no?
Let's do one of the buy or sells here. Which one do you guys want to jump into? They're all good here.
Let's go with the one that I listed, just because I think that was a question that was.
Yeah, we should have done last week.
Okay.
Yeah, it was posed to us a little while ago. So somebody on Twitter, I believe, was it Swinnerton? Don't be mad at me if it wasn't.
So.
But he proposed a question about how he's seeing more games being played on kind of obscure days during the week. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a Monday, a Wednesday, a Thursday. Hell, you even see some games on Sundays now that aren't even a part of events.
Yep.
I'm actually going to play the role of Stubbs here. And I'm going to ask you guys, buy or sell, games on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday should be more common throughout the high school season. Let's start with my guy, Stubbs.
Yeah, I'm going to buy that. I think those things are cool, man. I think like those standalone games, like on a Wednesday night, if you have, like, especially in Northeast Ohio, man, there's so many games, like matchups that you can have, like, that are, I feel like there's like 10 or 12 teams that should just all play each other in a league up that way, that are all very similar, really good, really talented, year in and year out. Only thing is like, at some schools, it's really hard to do that because if you only have like one gym and you got girls playing on one night, junior high on another, freshmen, it's really hard to get like gym time. So it's more difficult at some schools. But like at Central, like our junior highs are playing at Ridgeview. Like they have their own gym. So you don't have to worry about that. So I would I like the idea of like a big Wednesday night matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I'm always looking for games to go to on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights. I've actually been forced to go to Kentucky a lot of the times now on especially Wednesday and Thursday nights, just because Southwest Ohio doesn't have that many games on these obscure days. It's more something that happens in Central Ohio and Northeast Ohio. So if any Southwest Ohio teams want me to be there, it's a lot easier for me to be there on a Wednesday or Thursday when you're competing with maybe 5 to 10 other games in the area compared to a Tuesday or Friday when you're competing with 70 or 80 games in the area. So I like those games. I think you could do some creative things with like a girls doubleheader if both programs are pretty good at both the boys and the girls level. They did that for a Menor and Medina game a couple years ago, and it was pretty cool. I got there in like the third, fourth quarter of the girls game, so I saw the end of that. It was on a Friday night actually, but the gym was packed, and then all those people stayed for the boys game as well. So you got a good atmosphere for both of those games. So I like games on Wednesday and Thursdays. Helps me see some teams off the beaten path, especially when they play games on those nights. So I'm all for it. I wish there were more in Southwest Ohio next year because there's a bunch of teams that I want to see, and the only days they play games are Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. And those are all big games where I want to see all the best teams play those days. So I kind of have to give up a big night to see you on a Tuesday, Friday, or Saturday. And there's some teams that's the only option for me to see you. So either I see you then or I don't see you at all.
And shout out to the guy we just had on the show, Sonny Johnson. He was one of the first coaches that I've seen, at least up this way, who was doing that consistently. You know, whenever they would play Shaker Heights or they would play Lutheran East, he's like, man, I don't want this game on a Friday when there's all these other good games going on. So he'd throw it on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and he damn near get a sellout crowd. You know, I know Lutheran East does that as well. So I'm happy that more schools are starting to schedule this way, especially in a time where it doesn't seem like we're getting as many fans. So I think doing those games on those obscure nights makes it easier for people to go out. And I mean, who doesn't want to just kind of break the monotony of the week on a Wednesday and, you know, after work, go catch a Wednesday night game instead of having to wait till Friday. So yep. I'm all for it. I know it's easier said than done in some places like Stubbs mentioned, but yeah, hopefully it's something that we see continue to grow and become a trend.
Yeah, good buy or sell there. All right, let's finish the show with our Alumni Spotlight of the week. We'll close it out here. Roth, go ahead and get us started. Big school, small school.
All right. Well, for my Division I Player of the Week, I went with Des Watson of Columbus DeSales. He is now at Loyola Chicago, and he scored 18 points, had a career-high 6 assists in a win over his former school, Davidson, over the weekend. Loyola is only one game back of Dayton and Richmond for the A10 lead. So a good game for Des Watson, who's had a really solid season for Loyola Chicago. And then in my small college player of the week, I went with Sam Marbury. He's at Central Wyoming, which is a JUCO. He is a Solon grad, also did a post-grad year at Spire. Marbury scored 34 points, including 7 of 13 from three-point range in a loss to Gillette College over the weekend. And he also scored 42 points versus Eastern Wyoming in late January as well. So he's putting up some big-time numbers out in Wyoming. So Sam Marbury and Des Watson, my Alumni Spotlight Players of the Week.
For my Division I pick, I went with Day Grant from Duquesne. So former Lorraine High product, scored 31 points on 9 of 18 shooting from the floor, 7 of 14 from three, and a big win over Rhode Island. Grant missed some time during the year. I believe he had a concussion. So this was only his second game back. And it was at the perfect time because Duquesne has now won 4 straight. So shout out to Day Grant in the Steel City of Lorraine. My small college pick, I went with Luke Ruth from Ohio Dominican. So he scored 27 points. Obviously, he's a freshman, so that's a career high for him. And they won 81-76 over Trevecca Nazarene, who at one point was number 1 in the GMAC. I believe they're still in the top 3 to 4. So that's a really big win for Ohio Dominican. And it was their first conference win of the season under first-year coach Casey Kaufman, who without a doubt is going to turn that thing around, is going to turn it around quick. I've said this privately, I'll say it publicly. I believe Coach Kaufman is one of the best evaluators, one of the best coaches in the state of Ohio, regardless of division. So it's nice to see them get a big win. Ruth shot 12 of 21 from the floor and also dished out 6 assists. So big win for ODU and former Bishop Reedy grad Luke Ruth.
All right. And then for me, I did this for Roth, man. This is solely for Roth. My D1 Player of the Week is AJ Clayton from Philo High School. He graduated early and went to OU. He had 16 points in a win over Buffalo and then 15 in the rivalry win over Miami of Ohio. Clayton shot a very high percentage in both of those games. The Bobcats are 12-10 on the year, and they've won 5 out of their last 6. So keep an eye on the Fighting Jeff Bowles. So AJ Clayton, my D1 Player of the Week. And then small college player, how about Doogie James, Derek James, up at Gannon, man. Got 12 points in a win over Seton Hill and then had 20 in a win over number 14 Cal PA. Gannon is 19-2 on the year. They've won 8 straight. Doogie James is averaging about 10 points a game for Gannon. So shout out to AJ Clayton and Doogie James and all of our Alumni Spotlight winners this week.
Hey Stubbs, before you read the AJ Clayton pick, your little disclaimer reminded me of, you'll love this because I know you're a big wrestling guy. So you remember when Rikishi was like, I did it for The Rock.
Yeah.
Like, I did it for Rock. Just like in my brain, that's how, like, when you said it, that's how I heard it. So it just made me laugh.
Oh, man. Come to this podcast to get a Rikishi dropped on you. We don't want any stink faces here, though.
Stink face, baby.
Well, gentlemen, it was a great show, and safe travels this week, and enjoy the events that you guys are heading out to.
Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, guys.